Aussies spend a whopping $25 billion annually on gambling. We are the biggest gamblers on the planet. And when it comes to watching sport on TV, we're flooded with enticing ads to gamble. Today, we'll discuss strategies for those challenged by gambling. How do we regain control? Our guests today include Carol Bennett, the CEO of Alliance for Gambling Reform, Ken Bone and Reg Stockwell, two guys that have turned their lives around. Welcome, Carol. Great to have you back again at Monday Matters.
Thanks so much, Ian. Really pleased to be here.
And also welcome, Ken.
Thanks, mate, and also very happy to be on board, yeah.
And finally, welcome to you, Reg. Carol, I'm going to come to you to start things rolling. Can you tell us about some of the effective strategies that addicted gamblers have engaged to combat their addiction?
Well, that's a big question, Ian, because there are all sorts of things that people do to manage their gambling and gambling-related harms. So it's different for everybody, and it depends on their circumstances, of course. But there are very different ways of doing that. I guess, there's different ways of looking at this as well. From a peak body national perspective, the Alliance is working in three major areas. We're working on trying to reduce the level of poker machine harm. Now, as you know, that's probably the highest level of harm caused by gambling, the highest level of gambling-related product that causes harm. So for us, getting a mandatory cashless card with the right features in it, binding and default limits, all of those sorts of things that enable that card to hold people accountable to themselves and to others, so that they can set a limit on how much they can afford to spend and how much they can afford to lose, and they have to stick to those limits unless they can show otherwise. So for us, getting that introduced around the country is really important, and certainly people with gambling related harms have suggested to us that would be very significant in terms of helping them manage their gambling. Of course, there's other things like reducing spin rates, the times that gambling venues are open, and ensuring that those things are managed better than they are at the moment. So they're the kinds of things. Spend limits are really, really important to people. So that's on the poker machine front. In terms of online gambling, which I think Ken and Reg will talk to today, there's a lot more that we can do, and we've seen the ban on credit that the federal government's introduced. We know that's been a huge and terrific step forward for people with gambling related issues. We know that there's a lot more that needs to be done in that space. BetStop, the National Self-Exclusion Scheme, has been really, really critical to people in helping them self-exclude when they are having difficulty managing their gambling. And being able to set limits on that is something that we do want to see introduced. And I know that people have said to us that would be, that's something that should be introduced in that space. So they're really important things. And then finally, on the casino front, we want to see a lot more responsible service of gambling. And we've seen with all the various royal commissions and inquiries around the country that a number of those things are being introduced. Crown Casino now has a mandatory cashless card with binding, that they've now introduced, and that really does help people manage their gambling, and it can be done. I know the industry often says, these things are very hard to introduce, but it's been done there, so it can be done elsewhere, as well as just making sure that people are safe and well looked after when they're in the venue, and that they're given referral options when they need it. So they're the kinds of things, I guess, Ian, that we're looking to as a national body. At a personal level, I think we'll hear directly from Reggie and Ken around how they've managed their gambling, and I'm happy to speak to that after.
Yes. And before I let you go, look, the Alliance for Gambling Reform, you're doing some remarkable work. Out of all those strategies that you've mentioned, is there one that you can see evidence that's getting the greatest amount of traction and effect and benefit? Or is it just the combination of all those things?
Yeah, well, it depends what type of gambling somebody is doing. So if it's online gambling, then, you know, obviously self-exclusion schemes are very important. So the national self-exclusion scheme, BetStop, is quite important for helping people to be able to say, look, you know, I want to exclude for 3 months or, you know, for a lifetime, depending on the level of harm they're experiencing. For many people, opening hours are a big issue with poker machines. You know, if you have less access, especially during those times when people are most harmed by gambling, which is between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning, that's a very important thing. So it just depends what sorts of harms people experience and what type of gambling they're doing as to what is going to work best. So we're working on all of those fronts, and there's no one size fits all. I guess that's my message, Ian.
I'm going to turn to Ken now. And Ken, I'm going to ask you what pursuits that you've engaged in which have helped you to divert your addictive nature that you've had throughout your life to other pursuits away from gambling. What have you engaged in?
Okay, well, essentially at the moment, or for some time now, I've returned to cycling, which was something that I did when I was, you know, a young fella. I stopped cycling when I was about 21, got married, and started to have a family. I'll come to that, the question you've asked me in a minute. But just to let you know that for the following 8 years, I was married when I was 21. I have 3 children. I got 2 boys, 1 girl. They're all absolutely adults now. They're in their 50s. I'm 80 years old. That period of my life when, you know, I was off the rails and with, you know, really compulsive gambling and trying to keep a family together and a family home. Eventually, I was, you know, asked to leave the family home, which, you know, I don't know if there's anyone listening that has had that experience, that they know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a massive wrench. And not only that, but of course you feel an embarrassment. You feel as though you've let your family down and so on. Okay, so that's just a quick précis there. But basically, what I returned to was the cycling. I'm a competitive cyclist. I've raced at, you know, various high levels. I've raced overseas. And I picked up a title overseas as well, a sprint title. I've turned to racing and cycling, and that has been a saviour for me. Yeah, so cycling is paramount in my life now. I've got a partner of 18 years, which is a record for me, and you know, she has gone a long way to helping me to beat this, you know, wretched habit. I'm completely clear of gambling and have been for 25 years. Have not had a bet, have not had an interest. And, you know, I feel very proud of that. The other thing would be a healthy lifestyle, change of diet, that sort of thing. But the physical endeavour and, you know, being consumed by racing rather than horse racing, you know, a cycle race is much more beneficial than following horses around. I used to fly all over the country in small aircraft. I thought I was a big shot. Yeah, really caught up in it. So I'm so glad to be free of it and have been free of it for 25 years. In that time, I've managed to start a small company, which employs not just myself, but my partner was involved. My children are all involved. My daughter does the books. My two sons are in the business, in the cutting business. We're a wholesale florist, and as such, we supply the greenery that florists use in their day-to-day work, and we're the biggest in Australia. And I've built that up, and I'm very proud of that. And now, as I say, we've probably got in excess of 25 people on our payroll, and it's a very successful business. It's a legacy I can leave for my children, which is something I can be, quite proud of.
And Ken, within your business that you've created, not only family, but you've employed other folk that have had some challenges as well in terms of being new folk to the country of Australia.
I have. Opportunities have arisen where people have come along and asked for work, and could I help them with some accommodation and things like that. So yeah, it's brought me a lot closer to people and their people's needs. And but always in the back of my head is the poor people that are suffering from compulsive gambling. I think about it a lot, and it's for anyone that hasn't had that addiction, they could never understand perhaps, but it's as serious an addiction as putting a needle in your arm,
So, Ken, you've done remarkably well to have swung your addictive nature into these other pursuits of writing, but also with your business, and the benefits that have come from that are truly remarkable. I'm going to swing now to Reg. And Reg, you've found that community connections has been a powerful strategy to help you get your life back on the rails. Can you tell us about what's happened there?
Yeah, I haven't been like similar to Ken, but mine was purely horse racing that I was involved in, and I spent 40 years working in the community, creating a good name for myself and a good reputation. And then as a result, I finished up getting addicted, and I had probably 5 betting agencies and 10 credit cards at one stage, and ended up losing my job and couldn't afford to make the repayments on those credit cards. So it ended up landing me in jail in October 2020. And that was when the penny really hit, and I was sitting there in a single cell thinking, what am I going to do with my life? It's virtually over. But thanks to the support of one person who I was able to make a constant contact over a 2-year period, he gave me hope, and he said, things might look bad at the moment, but just keep hoping, because my ultimate aim was to get back with my wife. That was my main objective. Get through the 2 years I had in jail, get back with my wife. I got parole. So once a fortnight for 15 minutes, I was kept on the straight and narrow, thanks to John Taylor. And then when I got parole, I started attending his church at St. Albans, got back with my wife. That was the only time I was seeing who was next door to each other. John introduced me to a person by the name of Ian Bunston, and I've been involved with Monday Matters now for the last 18 months. It's probably one of the highlights of the week, just to keep that Monday morning, keeps me focused on what I need to do for the next week. And pretty much a couple of months after that, started going to that, not long after Ian got me involved with the boat building group, just to being able to go there and talk to people. Not that I did much boat building like you, Ian, but it was an avenue in that transitional period from getting out of prison and getting back with my wife. And then John advised me to go and listen to a person by the name of Tim Costello, who was speaking at Highton. And I told him my story, and he introduced me to Carol. And for the last 18 months, I've been working with Carol, and my focus has been with helping Alliance for Gambling Reform as well. So I've used something bad to try and create something good out of all this. So with the church's support, I've been more actively involved from a church level. I've been actively involved in doing whatever Carol asked me to help with. Hopefully at some stage we'll be seen on the 7:30 report, Carol. And also about that time when I first got out of jail, I was trying to work out how to get back involved in the community and get my life back on track. So as a fanatical Richmond supporter, I got involved with a Facebook group called Richmond Fanatical Supporters. And after a few comments on that and 2 or 3 months being involved in that, the guy who runs the site, he asked me to be an administrator for him. So I now take pressure off him and approve and disapprove. And we have rules, and one of my involvements there, he could be out during the day, whereas I've got plenty of time at day. So as you said, I get tempted every day because I'm now an age pensioner for about 2 weeks. So I spend a lot of time now on the television, and the support of my wife, she's also keeps me on the straight and narrow, because one of the rules that we had getting back together was no horse racing at all to be on the television. I've got streaming services. I watch a lot of sport on KO, and the problem is you get advertisements on Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 10, all. And even watching the news, that's what I'm finding, Carol. I'm sitting watching the news, and they'll put Jamie Carr or Damien Oliver in a horse race on, and my wife walks in, she said, "What are you doing with the horse races on?" I said, "I'm watching the news." But it is tempting every day when you see these advertisements. You just can't avoid the advertisements. And that's the main reason I got involved with Carol, because we're trying to get rid of those advertisements full stop. As I said, my involvement was horse racing. I still like to take an active interest to see how my ex-horse trainer goes with his horses. But I'm not allowed to, and that's the thing, my wife is the key thing behind it, because we will be married 25 years in August this year, and that means more to me than any sort of relapsing. So, but with the community service that I'm doing at the moment, with Alliance for Gambling Reform, the church, the more I can get involved. And even recently, Ian, we've even spoken about your passion of Stable One and about how we can expand that and get that involved in the Geelong area.
Well,
So,
Reg, I have to say, Reg, you are certainly getting involved with those community connections. And if there was one feeling that it creates in you when you do have those connections, and that you can see the benefits, and you can see that you are contributing, how does that make you feel at that moment when that happens?
okay, yeah, well, look, as I keep saying to my wife, nothing will change the past, but if what I'm doing can help just one person not become addicted, then it's probably all worthwhile. Yeah, my wife she gets angry and frustrated because she doesn't like to see me exposing myself to people who don't know us, and worried about how they will judge us. But I got the feeling that I've been led down this path for a reason, and working with Carol and yourself, I think we can do something for the community going forward. And that's what I'm focused on at the moment.
Well, thanks, Reg, for that.
And I haven't had a bet for 3.5 years.
Good on you. Good on you. Well done. Well done.
Victoria had something to do with that.
I am going to swing back to Carol now. Carol, as you listen to Ken and Reg, and you hear their stories, and you know them probably pretty well, particularly for Reg, how does it make you feel?
Well, it gives me a sense of hope, Ian, because I think those stories are incredible stories from, true despair and, well beyond the point of having, been prepared to give everything up, and to, what is now, incredible experiences and incredible contributions back to the community by both Ken and Reg. And, I have to say, I think building a really successful business from the ground up is never easy. I think that's an incredible achievement, Ken, and well done. All power to you for having achieved that from where you were. And same with you, Mark. I mean, your contribution to advocacy has been enormous and makes a huge difference to other people. And for both of you, I mean, just having this conversation today is really powerful, because there'll be other people who will be listening to this that will be, at that point of despair, and they will, have a sense of hope. It certainly gives me a sense of hope hearing that there is a way forward, and there is a way out of such a situation that can really be very beneficial for yourselves, but your families, but also the community. So yeah, thank you. It was really it's an uplifting, they're both uplifting stories. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Look, our time has gone, and I do need to wrap things up. But to Ken and Reg, for your willingness and courage to share your personal experiences, I think we'd all agree. We are very thankful for that, and very grateful. And Carol, for the wonderful work that the Alliance for Gambling Reform is doing to reduce the harm from gambling in Australia is also remarkable. The number of things and strategies that you're introducing, we applaud you for that. But thank you all of being our guests here at Monday Matters.